The entire community of Merced, I am so pleased, so thrilled, so honored to be here with all of you today. Now, I know we got a lot of national press out there, and a few people may be wondering, why did I choose the University of California, Merced to deliver my first commencement speech as First Lady? Well, let me tell you something. The answer is simple. You inspired me. You touched me. You know, there are few things that are more rewarding than to watch young people recognize that they have the power to make their dreams come true, and you did just that. Your perseverance and creativity were on full display in your efforts to bring me here to Merced for this wonderful occasion. So let me tell you what you did. If you don't know, parents, because some of you were involved, my office received thousands of letters and, of course, Valentine's cards from students, each and every one of them, so filled with hope and enthusiasm. It moved not just me, but my entire staff. They came up to me and said, "Michelle, you have to do this. You have to go here." They were all terrific. Like the one from Christopher Kasuga that read, "Dear Mrs. Obama, please come to UC Merced's commencement. We could really use the publicity." That really touched me. Or then there was one from Jim Greenwood, who wrote, not on his behalf, but on behalf of his wife and the mother of his 2 children, who is graduating with us today. And then there was the one from Andrea Mercado. I think this was one of my favorites. Andrea said that the role of First Lady is, and I quote, "the balance between politics and sanity." Thank you, Andrea, for that vote of confidence. I received letters from everyone connected to this university, not just students, but they came from parents and grandparents and cousins and aunts and uncles and neighbors and friends, all of them telling me about how hard you all have worked and how important this day is for you and for the entire Merced community. And then there's that beautiful video, the We Believe video. Well, let me tell you, it worked, because I'm here. In particular, Sam Fong and Yasha Saba and all of the students who launched the Dear Michelle campaign. I am honored by your efforts and happy to be with you to celebrate this important milestone. But I understand that this type of community-based letter writing campaign isn't unique to me. This community, this Merced community, employed the same strategy to help get the University of California to build the new campus here in Merced. Every school kid in the entire county, I understand, sent a postcard to the UC Board of Regents in order to convince them to select Merced. And I just love the fact that some of the graduates sitting in this audience today participating were involved in that campaign as well, and then they used the same strategy to get me here. That is amazing. And what it demonstrates is the power of many voices coming together to make something wonderful happen. And I'm telling you, next year's graduation speaker better watch out, because Merced students know how to get what they want. Activism and optimism speaks volumes about the students here, the faculty, and staff, but also about the character and history of Merced, a town built by laborers and immigrants from all over the world. Early settlers who came here as pioneers and trailblazers in the late 1800s as part of the gold rush and built the churches and businesses and schools that exist. African Americans who escaped slavery and the racism of the South to work on the railways as truck drivers up and down Route 99. Mexican Americans who traveled north to find work on the farms and have since become the backbone of our agricultural industry. Asian Americans who arrived in San Francisco and have slowly branched out to become a part of the community in the San Joaquin Valley. Merced's makeup may have changed over the years, but its values and character have not. Long, hot days filled with hard work by generations of men and women of all races who wanted an opportunity to build a better life for their children and their grandchildren. Hardworking folks who believed that access to a good education would be their building blocks to a brighter future. You know, I grew up in one of those communities with similar values. Like Merced, the South Side of Chicago is a community where people struggled financially but worked hard, looked out for each other, and rallied around their children. My father was a blue-collar worker, as you all know. My mother stayed at home to raise me and my brother. We were the first to graduate from college in our immediate family. I know that many of you out here are also the first in your families to achieve that distinction as well. And as you know, being the first is often a big responsibility, particularly in a community that, like many others around our country at the moment, is struggling to cope with record high unemployment and foreclosure rates, a community where families are a single paycheck or an emergency room visit away from homelessness, and with jobs scarce. Many of you may be considering leaving town with your diploma in hand, and it wouldn't be unreasonable. For those of you who come from communities facing similar economic hardships, you may also be wondering how you'll build decent lives for yourselves if you choose to return to those communities. But I would encourage you to call upon the same hope and hard work that brought you to this day. Call upon that optimism and tenacity that built the University of California at Merced to invest in the future of Merced in your own hometowns all across this country. By using what you learned here, you can shorten the path, perhaps, for kids who may not see a path at all. And I was once one of those kids. Most of you were once one of those kids. I grew up just a few miles from the University of Chicago in my hometown. The university, like most institutions, was a major cultural economic institution in my neighborhood. My mother even worked as a secretary there for several years. Yet that university never played a meaningful role in my academic development. The institution made no effort to reach out to me, a bright and promising student in their midst, and I had no reason to believe there was a place for me there. Therefore, when it came time for me to apply to college, I never for 1 second considered the university in my own backyard as a viable option. And as fate would have it, I ultimately went on and accepted a position in student affairs at the University of Chicago more than a decade later. What I found was that working within the institution gave me the opportunity to express my concerns about how little role the university plays in the life of its neighbors. I wanted desperately to be involved in helping to break down the barriers that existed between the campus and the community. And in less than a year through that position, I worked with others to build the university's first Office of Community Service. And today, the office continues to provide students with opportunities to help reshape relationships between the university and its surrounding community. Students there today are volunteering in local elementary schools, serving as mentors at high schools, organizing neighborhood watches, and worshiping in local churches. But you know a little something about working with your community here, don't you, Merced?